Alright, so my voice sounds a little weird because I've been slightly under the weather lately, but I want to do a video on focus stacking. And sorry, I'm bobbing my head around a little bit because I can't really see myself too well with where I set up the camera. But what focus stacking is you're going to take a bunch of pictures and you're going to compile them all into one in Photoshop, and you're going to get one very clear picture out of it. Alright, so this video is going to jump around a little bit because, in all honesty, it took me a couple months to record everything for this. So I'm going to jump through a few videos that I recorded parts of at a certain time. Also, this is going to be one of the longer videos that I have. But let's talk about what focus stacking is. So what focus stacking is when you take a bunch of different pictures, all of the same subject at a slightly different focal point. That way you get more of the image in focus, and then you combine them all in Photoshop to make one in-focus picture. A couple examples, and the reason that I decided to go ahead and get started on all this is a friend of mine had some artichokes growing in his daughter's front yard. And he had never seen anything like that, and when I went and saw the pictures, I didn't even realize I knew what an artichoke looked like in the wild. They came out gorgeous pictures, so I figured I'd show you all a couple of them. So here's one of them. This is a focus stacked image of an artichoke. You can look at all the pollen and everything that's on this artichoke. It's just a gorgeous picture. I'm going to show you three of them. I know normally I'm not a fan of showing off the work, but this is so you can kind of see what a focus stacked image is. Here's another one. This is what the artichoke actually looks like, and I'll be honest, I didn't even know this is what artichokes look like. And then we've got one more that I was going to show. There we are. So yeah, we've got these three pictures. So now let's go ahead and jump to another video, and I'm going to go ahead and explain to you three different ways you can focus stack an image. Alright, so the different types of focus stacking we're going to talk about. So one of them is going to be without a tripod. And what you do is you turn your camera to continuous shooting mode, and then you get your settings right on your camera, set your ISO, your aperture, your shutter speed. Your shutter speed needs to be a fast shutter speed. I would say for how we're going to shoot, I'd say 125 of a second should be the slowest you would go. And then what you're going to do, you're going to find your subject, you're going to hold down the shutter, and you're just going to push in. So let's get these out of the way for a second. Oh, I'm sorry. One thing I forgot to mention. Make sure it's off of automatic focus. So you're going to focus at the front of your object, and then you're going to just push in so the focus plane will move to the end. Now, in all honesty, this is my least favorite way of focus stacking. Now, number two, probably one of the better, more common ways. And what you're going to do, you're going to set up your camera on a tripod. The tripod part is going to be very important. So you're going to set it up on a tripod. You're going to compose your image so that everything you want to see is properly in frame. Then you're going to set your settings, make sure that everything is exposing at a proper exposure. And then you're going to focus on the very front of the object. And then you're going to take that picture. Then you're going to adjust your focus just a little bit, and you're going to focus now on kind of the mid-grain. Take a picture. Then you're going to focus again. Focus more towards the back middle. Take a picture. Focus on the end of the thing. Take a picture. And what this is going to do is it's going to get this whole frame in focus. Now moving on to my absolute favorite way. This still requires a tripod, still requires you composing your image, finding the aperture that is at your lens's sweet spot, setting your settings based on that, and you're going to go into a setting that some cameras have under the photo shooting menu. This is going to be called focus shift shooting. So when you go in there, you're going to see a bunch of different settings you have. First one's going to be number of shots, second one's going to be focus step width, then it's going to be interval until next shot, then exposure smoothing, then silent photography, and then starting storage folder. So all these different settings are going to play into how it's taking the picture. So first off, your number of shots. Now, shooting at this mode, the way we had shown before, taking only 3 or 5 pictures or something to get the whole thing in focus, isn't going to quite work this way. So you're going to want to jump it up to, I would say, probably at least 20 to get everything in focus. Then you're going to go on to your focus step width. Now, what this means is this is how far it's going to be changing the focus before the next picture. And then it's going to be interval until next shot. And what this is you're just setting the time as to once it finishes taking the picture as to when it's going to move on and take the other. This one I always generally leave at 0 seconds. Then it's something called exposure smoothing. Now what this does is it just kind of forces the exposure to be most like the previous picture it just took. Now I generally don't have this setting on because I get my settings right before I shoot, and I shoot everything in RAW so I can adjust it a little bit if I need to then. And then we're on silent photography. And what that means is instead of hearing the lens flip back and forth, is a DSLR after all, it's going to stay open and you'll be able to have it seen in live view and it'll just move on to the next one without ever flipping the lens back. That way you get less movement out of it. Then it's starting storage folder. When you have this, you can have it set as new folder or reset file numbering. I personally just keep it at new folder. That way, all those pictures in that focusing will go into their own folder in the memory card. Now, when you're setting this one up, when it comes time to focusing on your subject, you're going to look at your subject with it on the tripod, of course. So you're going to look at your subject and you're going to say, that's my subject. You're going to focus it all the way away, I'm going the wrong way, all the way away from infinity. And then you're going to move the focus slowly until just the front part that you want in focus starts coming in focus. And that's when you press start. And then it will cycle through 20, 50, 100, 1,000, however many images you have set for it to take until it hits infinity. So you always have to make sure you refocus this between each shots to go back to the beginning. Otherwise, you just won't get everything in focus because it's only working up into infinity. Okay, so now that I've talked a little bit about what focus stacking is, and I've shown you how you achieve it in the camera, I'm going to go ahead and show you a video where I'm out there actually taking the pictures. Now, the first pictures I showed you of the artichokes, I didn't think ahead to set up this video for that, so I retook some pictures in the same way just so you can kind of get an idea on how to do it. Here we go. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set up a tripod. Now, for focus stacking, a tripod is going to be very important. Get out of the frame for a second. There's a lot of times in here that I'm just going to fast forward it because, well, honestly, it's boring and you don't really need to watch me just focusing. Alright, so the issue we're facing right now is it's kind of windy out. So we don't want to use too slow of a shutter speed when we're doing this. But you get your image in frame, and then you set your settings. Now, for this, you're going to want to use the light meter, and everything you're going to want to have in manual mode. Now I'm setting it to 64 ISO. We're going to put the f-stop at 8, and then that's going to force me to have a 5-second picture. How windy it is, this may not work. Let's take a picture just to find out. And see with how much it's moving, that's too fast. So what we're going to do is we're going to play with the ISO a little bit. We're going to boost it just so we can slow down our shutter speed. This is a very crucial part of the video. You definitely want to make sure you get all of your settings proper while you're out there shooting. Right, so I put my ISO at 1,000. That way I can put my shutter speed at 80, and I'm still shooting at f8. So now I'm going to go into my settings. I'm going to go to focus shift shooting. I'm going to set my focus width at 0 second interval, and we're going to do number of shots. We're going to do it. And then we're going to want to change the focus all the way out. You line up, make sure everything's good, and then press start. I've got it set for silent photography. That way, hopefully it doesn't jump it as much. sitting right here, I can tell that the flower's still moving, so let's hope that that doesn't mess things up too much for us either. Now this is the first way, and if your camera doesn't have this feature built in, I'm going to show you two other ways that you can still achieve a focus stack effect.
Like I said, we're going to fast forward through some of this because
now the second way, we're going to do this more manually. Alright, so now we're going to focus on the part of our image that's closest to us and take a picture. Then we're going to focus slightly further back. Shut off autofocus on this. Then a little further back. Just so everything is good. And the final way is not use a tripod. Now with this way, what you're going to do is you're going to want to turn your camera to continuous shooting mode, sorry. And you know you've done that when you just hold down the shutter speed and it sounds like this. So you want that effect. Then we're going to shut off autofocus. First we're going to focus and then we're going to shut it off. And we're just going to move in. Taking pictures as we go. This usually works better with a faster shutter speed, so I'm going to redo this at 160 and compensate my ISO. And there you have it. Those are 3 different ways to focus stack an image. Now, let's take it into Photoshop and see what we do.
So now at this point, everything to do with focus stacking has already been shot, and you just have to put them all together. And the best program to do that in is going to be Photoshop.
Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and work on this on my laptop, just because I've been working in the kitchen, hence the mess of everything. Doing a little remodeling right now. But your first step is going to get all the images off the card onto your computer. And then once they're on your computer, then you're going to go through them. Now, for the first group of focus stacked images that we did, it was the one that the camera controlled automatically. So in doing that, we got a bunch of out of focus images. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through them and we're going to find where it starts being in focus. And as you can see with how windy it was, the flower moved around quite a bit. When it's that windy, this may not work at all. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and say this is the start of my in focus one, so we're just going to go ahead and star that so I can find it easily. And this looks like it's the end of my in focus ones. So now we're going to star that one, and we're going to go back to the first one, and we're going to star all the ones in between. Then we're going to open these up in Adobe Camera Raw. Now, I am screen recording right now on this computer, so it is taking a little while.
And because I was screen recording, I was also using the computer to record the audio.
All right, so that's why we have our image. We're going to find one that we deem is in focus enough for us to happily edit. So I found my image, and what we're going to start off with is we're going to scroll down to Optics. There we go. We're going to go ahead and use profile corrections and remove chromatic aberration. Now, all this is really doing is making sure that the warpness of a lens is not going to affect my overall picture. Then we're going to come back up to basics. We're going to set the white balance to auto or whatever we think is best. I just start with auto because it is usually a good measure. So we're going to find a spot we like. And then I usually just click auto, just kind of see what it comes up with, and then I tweak it from there. I want more more shadows to be shown. I'm going to raise that. I'm going to bring down my highlights a little. Bring up the whites just a bit. Bump the exposure up, not that much. Yes. So then once we have the image where we like it, we're going to select all of our images. I did that by pressing Control A, be Command A on a Mac. And then you're going to select the little dots here, and you're going to push Sync Settings. You can also do Alt S. We're going to go ahead and check all and press OK. We're going to give it a second. It's going to work on all this, and then we're going to click Done. Now we're going to let Bridge take a second to catch back up. We've got 16 images to work with. I'm just going into the filter thing, and I'm just going to select just those. Sorry, computer's going a little slow, like I said, because of the screen capturing. All right, so once we have all of those images, everything looks processed well. We're going to select them all. We're going to go up to Tools, then down to Photoshop, and then load files into Photoshop layers. And this will take a minute as well. All right, so now that you have all of your images in Photoshop as layers, you're going to...
Okay, so at this point, even if you weren't screen recording from your laptop at the same time you're trying to focus stack all these images, it's still going to use a lot of RAM up. So this laptop sometimes wouldn't make it. So I kept having to clear up space on my laptop to even get the images processed. Now you might run into that same situation. If that's the case, then just move some images off of your computer, move some large files off your computer, just clear up some room, empty your recycle bin, put some stuff that you're not using currently on that computer out on a cloud drive or something, get it off your computer and re-download it later. There's a bunch of different options you can do to clear up some space, but ultimately we're working with a whole bunch of very large pictures and we're trying to fit them all together, and Photoshop requires a whole lot of RAM to do this. Also, this is a very, very timely process. I think processing these 3-4 images took probably, if I remember correctly, because this was a few months ago, I want to say it took 4 hours maybe. So don't expect it to be a quick process, even though I'm going to fast forward through any of the slow parts at super fast speeds, just so you don't have to deal with the boringness of the waiting.
You want to select all of the layers, and then you want to go over here to Edit, and then Auto Align Layers. You want to keep the projection at Auto, and then make sure under Lens Correction, the Vignette Removal and the Geometric Distortion are not clicked, and then you press OK. And now this is another waiting game that might take a little while. I highly recommend that between these steps you save your files in case your computer cannot keep up and shuts down for some reason. You don't want to have to go through all that time it took to get back to where you were. Alright, so now that all of your layers are aligned, you will see that Photoshop has now moved all of the pictures so that the main focus in the middle is all lined up. My cat is talking. Alright, so next we're going to want to auto blend the layers. So you're going to go back under Edit and then Auto Blend Layers. And then you're going to want to have it checked under Stack Images, Seamless Tones and Colors. And me personally, I do not check the Content Aware Fill, just because I have all these extra spaces here around the edges that I do not need. We're going to end up cropping this layer. Alright, so now it says it's done, and there we see its magic. There's definitely parts of this image that, due to movement and stuff like that, that I don't think came out great. Let me get a little more comfortable here. So you see around here we have some shadowing effects. Over here we've got some more. The center of it looks good though. That being said, what you could do at this point is to go through, find your problem layers, get them out, and redo all of this. Me personally, for this image, I'm just going to flatten it and then crop it down to what I do like. So let's go ahead and flatten the image. We're going to go ahead and save it here. Now, usually I don't recommend flattening images. I'm very big when it comes to non-destructive editing. But personally, I don't see a reason once I'm past a certain point to have to come back and mess with those individual layers of a focus stacked image. So I do recommend flattening just to save file size. Now we're going to crop this down. I see problem areas. Let's get that way down here. I see problem areas over there. I see them up to here. And I see them over to probably there. I see a few more right in there, so we're going to bring that in just a little more. And then now we're just going to set the picture a little more how we like it. So for this image, crop it down and see what we came up with. So if you look at it, all of that is in focus. Got a little bit of blurriness right there, but that's mostly due to the fact that the wind was blowing, and yeah. So there's how you do that with that set. I'm going to go ahead and let's get out of here. Let's get back into Bridge, and now we're going to work with the next set of images that we shot. And we're pretty much going to do the exact same steps over again. I'm going to walk through it just as repetition will make it better, and we'll see the final results of each 3 of the images. Star use as 2. And then just for next, I'm going to go ahead and star the next set as 3, and then 4. All right. So now in under 2, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to open these up in Adobe Camera Raw. We're going to pick an image we like, and we're going to go through the same editing techniques that we chose before to get the image how we like it. And then just like before, we're going to go under Photoshop and we're going to load the files into layers. All right, so the first step I'm going to do in case there's any complications is I'm going to go ahead and save this. All right, and then once it's saved, we're going to do the same thing. I think my voice just cracked there. We're going to auto align the layers, same thing, auto, and make sure vignette and geometric are checked off. All right, and then once they're all aligned, we're going to save it real quick. And then we're going to go through and we're going to blend it. So go back to auto blend, stack images, seamless tones and colors, and don't check content to fill aware. Now, as you can tell already, there's less white on the edges. That means the flower didn't move as much in this shot as it had in the previous one. So we're probably going to get better results with less ghosting. And here we go, get ready for the magic to happen. And come on, anytime now. There we go. So now we see we still do have a little bit of ghosting up here, but for the most part, this image looks a lot better. So we're gonna go ahead and flatten this. And that, between the 2 ways of taking the picture, this one was set up and focusing manually, and the previous one was letting it autofocus each step as it goes. both of these are the proper way of doing it, but due to wind, you can have some issues. So there's no real right or wrong way when it comes to these two. So let's go ahead and crop this image down right at the ghosting there. We're just going to bring that in just a little bit. Bring that in just a little bit. And we get a little bit of distortion right there. So we're just going to crop up. We're going to see how that looks. All right, so the image looks good. You've got very sharp details in there. Look at the, I guess, the seeds where they come out of. I don't know too much about sunflowers, so I could be wrong there. I think there's still a little bit of ghosting right there. So we can either crop that down more, or we can go through and fix it. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to bring down the cropping just a little bit. Make it a little bit of a tighter, more panoramic kind of feel. I just feel like I need to bring that up just to even it out. And there we go. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And then we'll move on to the third way of doing it. And I believe I shot that one twice. So this one we got 8 images. So we're going to look to see if there's any that we deem we don't like.
2 out of focus.
Now that one's just all out of focus. It's getting a little better. To be honest, I don't think this one we're really going to be able to use. That one looks pretty in focus, but other than that one image,
I don't really have it. So let's see if the other one will get better.
All right, so we're going to get rid of these. So we're going to use these 4 images, and same process as before. We're going to take it into Camera Raw, and once we're in Camera Raw, we're going to do the same things as before. And now we're going to load them into Photoshop as layers. All right, so now that we have our images in layers, we're going to do the same thing as we did before, and we're going to save a copy. Then we're going to go ahead and align the layers, making sure to select auto and not check those 2 extra boxes. And then we're going to go ahead and blend the layers. Remember, seamless tones, not content aware. Oh, crap. Cancel that. I just noticed that under blend, it was checked as panorama. I want stack images. I don't know how that got changed, but it's definitely something we want to avoid. All right, so now we get to watch the magic happen. And this one came out horrible. I don't know what happened with those colors there. We're just going to avoid that. All right, so the third one did not work very well. The third way we shot zooming in. Now, that one does not always work. You won't always get great results, but in a pinch, it's worth a try. The first 2, we got some decent pictures. One thing I will say that I didn't mention earlier is if I want to get this whole flower in, then I would have my camera positioned further back or zoom out if you weren't using a prime lens. That way you have area to crop down. But I'm happy with these 2 pictures that came out. I think we got some good results out of them.
All right, so there you have it. The full process from start to beginning on how to focus stack an image. I hope you have much better luck than I did on that third image I tried. But it's all trial and error. You're going to get better as you do it more. Just keep on shooting. Have fun. Until next time. Okay, so I just want to quickly talk about these two prints that I had made. These are of the pictures I had focus stacked. They're both printed on aluminum. This one here is a glossy. This one here is a matte. Both of them have a white paint start on it, so it gives it that high color contrast look to it. I printed one of each just so I can kind of get a side-by-side comparison of which one I'm going to like better. This one here is a glossy print, so I'm thinking I'm probably going to stick with the glossy, even though this one does give great colors with no glare. I still think I like the glossy better, but both these pictures are going to my friend and his daughter who let me take the pictures of that artichoke.